Hi, everybody. Welcome to Relax Time Radio. You're here with me and Mon. We've got no guests this week. It's just us two. However, here we are, 93.25 FM, broadcasting on Radio Thailand, Chiang Mai. Good to have you with us. Going to be playing some newly released music and just talking about some current events, changes to COVID restrictions, other events going on in Chiang Mai and around the world.
That's right.
Yes. Okay, so where are we going to start?
So today I'm going to interview Paul a little bit because he knows more what's going on here than I do. So first I would, his face says it all.
Maybe.
So why don't we start, let's start with reading out the news first so we can then go into talking about everything that I'm going to ask you about.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so yeah, we have a couple of news stories from the National News Bureau of Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
The first of these regarding Songkran, because if you remember, there was an announcement a while back when Songkran holiday was cancelled that they said they would reschedule it.
Right.
But so they've released, I think, news from today or from yesterday. They still haven't decided on a date, so it's still under consideration. That would be a strange idea, wouldn't it, to reschedule Songkran for a different day?
I
but
mean,
it's not just a holiday, because it's also, in Thailand there's not Thailand is one of the countries with the most national holidays in the world.
right.
And it's because people get their time off work this way through all the national holidays. So it's not only a matter of the Songkran as in terms of the Buddhist holiday, but it's also the the labor consideration as well. So
yeah, I think for us it would be probably funny because it's like Thai New Year and it's like, let's reschedule New Year. And to be honest, looking at what happened this year, I'm like, maybe we should reschedule the next New Year just earlier so we can be done with that year.
Okay, interesting idea.
Right?
I'll submit it to the cabinet on your behalf.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. The next story relates to migrant workers, specifically from neighboring countries, Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar. So migrant workers have been allowed to remain and work in Thailand until the 31st of July. That's been extended from the previous deadline. And another story is that the government has slashed property tax by 90%. So this is obviously to help with the economic disruption from the COVID-19 pandemic. So property taxes, well, you and I aren't paying property taxes, I am assuming, but anybody who is paying property tax, that's being cut for this year until May 2021. I don't know, hang on a second, is that a different one? No, that date is something else, but basically property tax for the year has been cut by 90%. That's a help to some people. Other there've been other relief of, for example, from electricity. So a lot of people have had electricity bill rebates.
Oh, okay.
Businesses mainly.
Yeah.
And then the last one is quite interesting, actually. This is that the Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperatives has partnered with Grab, the delivery provider Grab, to open up an online retail space for farm products, allowing farmers to sell produce directly to customers via the app. That's quite an interesting one, actually. I don't know how it would operate, but yeah.
Well, actually, I've seen it and I was wondering what's going on. And I think it's super interesting, but I think you can directly order farm products, which will be picked up and then brought. And I think when I've seen it, let me just check if I can quickly get it up, but I think you got to pre-order like a day or so before.
Okay.
If I'm correct.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Well, what I can see here is that there's a section of farm products on Grab Mart service initially offering 5 kinds of fruit from farms directly to customers. You've obviously seen it already. I hadn't seen it, but it makes sense if it's directly from farms to customers that it wouldn't be, immediate thing, but some kind of
I
next
did
day delivery.
think I see it,
sense.
but it's not showing up here. But maybe, maybe it was something. Anyways, yeah.
So the Ministry of Agriculture and cooperatives aims to increase domestic fruit consumption from 30 to 50%. So that must mean the consumption of the fruit produced in the country, perhaps export markets have been affected heavily by the COVID-19 pandemic. So if domestic consumption can be increased, that will help. And also, sounds like a way for people to get healthier, eat more fruit.
Yep.
Okay, so those are the news stories I have. Let's get into you interviewing me about, I don't know. Let's see.
We'll see. So in the past few weeks, we have already interviewed a few of our local heroes, as well as we both talked about a few initiatives that's going on in Chiang Mai. So why don't we just update our listeners a little bit on what's going on now? Let's share, because last week we had Ganshi on the interview for our local heroes. And we talked about, first of all, we talked about bicycling, like making Chiang Mai a bicycle city. That's also helping for the air and everything. And we talked about the new campaign for the, oh my God, let me try that. I know it's short SSRC, but it's the Shan State Refugee Committee.
That's right.
Woohoo! So
I got it wrong. I was getting it wrong. I was saying SRCC. SSRC, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I have to kind of remember where it's written and then read it in my mind and then say it out loud. So anyways, let's start with an update on the air issue first. Is there anything that we know that has been going on while there was a little virus going?
Yes, actually. The Chiang Mai Breath Council, obviously now people, the various activists working on the issue of air pollution in Chiang Mai know that you can't just leave this alone and be concerned about it, during the burning season. If it's going to be solved, they really have to work on this all year round, and they're trying to. So last month, the Chiang Mai Breath Council had a live event, a live sort of video conversation, live stream conversation, and that one was called "A New Generation in the Polluted City." Well, the name was in Thai, but it translates to something like "A New Generation in the Polluted City." So they interviewed several people, including Paul from Northgate Paradon, who we also had interviewed, about air pollution in the city and how the new generation views it and what solutions that they have come up with. Then this weekend on Saturday, there's going to be another event, and this time the event will be called "Foreigners Living in Chiang Mai During the Air Pollution Season." So they've actually invited me and Ganji onto this live event. So we'll both be talking about our experience living here during the air pollution. So the Chiang Mai Breath Council, they did a lot of work over this last 6 months, or I forget, since their foundation. They've done a lot of work, and they definitely are aiming to plow ahead. So if you'd like to join that live session, it's on Saturday, this Saturday, 6th of June at 1 p.m. So just go to Chiang Mai Breath Council page, and you can watch it. But I think probably we can share a link to that.
Right. Is there a common solution that's recommended by the activists or by these collectives, basically, that fight for it?
I think there's so many solutions have been suggested. I don't think there's just one solution and the solutions are not necessarily simple to implement. So there
Right.
isn't just one solution. So, for example, because there are different kinds of burning, so there might be burning from crop residues in rice fields. The Chiang Mai Breath Council, I know they've done a lot. Rice fields and sort of sugarcane fields, they've done a lot to tackle this already. Sort of working with local communities and getting different tambons, sort of districts, to sign up to agree not to burn and to do things like char burning. To create charcoal that use the char burners, this kind of thing. So that's one part of it. Then obviously, like the forest fires are more difficult because there are multiple reasons why the forests can be burned, to clear land to grow corn, to grow, to collect mushrooms, to aid in collecting mushrooms, other clearing land for other purposes, perhaps hunting. So I don't really think that there's just one solution, but there are many solutions, and I think the different solutions that have been proposed are good solutions. It just would take time to get them to work.
Right. But what would be, because I haven't been very informed about all of the solutions yet, is there a common solution, as in is there something that's been suggested a lot already for, let's say, the forest burning, for example, because that's been obviously heavily this year, right?
Yeah, forest management. Well, I'm not an expert on this. The only things that I've heard, it's been, for example, it's been suggested, well, if people are collecting the head top mushrooms, then you could try and prohibit the sale of those mushrooms, but that would be a policy issue. Maybe it would be on a government level. That would be something that's, for the government to look into. Whether it's a feasible way or not, I don't know. And then also there have been sort of people who know much more about the forests. So there was an Adan, a professor, who I've forgotten his name, but he basically knows so much about the forest that he was able to say, well, in actual fact, if you don't burn the forests, it's possible to gather a lot more mushrooms, not less. But you have to gather, you need knowledge of more knowledge of mushrooms, this kind of thing. So, so that's one thing. Another thing would be forest management. There's this issue of who has ownership of the forest, what rights different groups have to the forest. Is it managed by national parks? Is it managed by different indigenous peoples? All of these. So who has rights to what can influence whether the forest gets protected or not. So there are sort of forest rights, forest management issues. And then other sorts of things, just like, for example, funding firefighting. Are the firefighters properly funded? So there was another group, Save Chiang Mai from Burning. They did a lot of work, just simply supporting firefighters in different areas with money and equipment and support. And it's very sad this year. There was several people lost their lives fighting fire.
Yeah. I think 9.
Maybe it's 7 or 9. It was a very.
I have a number of horrific. Like 6 or 9 in my head. I don't know which way around.
Something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was extremely sad to hear that and to see that all the time when these messages came around, because it's so unnecessary. That's for sure. So how are these groups working together? So let's say Save Chiang Mai from Burning and the Chiang Mai Breath Council, are they working together in any way so they can maybe cross?
I'm not 100% sure, although I do know that some of the people in Chiang Mai Breath Council have also been working on fire prevention, creating fire breaks. So they whether they're working together or not, I can't answer that. Maybe I'll be able to find out more after this, talking to some of the people from the Breath Council this weekend. But I know that they're working on some of the same things. And also we had not me and you, but Relax Time Radio had Dr. Michael Schaefer. He was sort of the founder of he's the source of the char burner,
Right.
Creating charcoal from crop residues. And the Chiang Mai Breath Council has definitely supported that, and vice versa. So whether they're working together, I can't say, but there's agreement on the solutions. There's some agreement on solutions for sure.
Right, right. So looking at this year, it was the first time in a couple of years that I spent burning season here again. I think the last 2 years I kind of sneaked out. But it was definitely intense, also with knowing that it was 42 degrees for like 8 weeks or something on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And I'm on the foot of Doi Suthep, so I've seen the direct development of the flames and the smoke, and I could count basically sometimes like, oh, that's a lot. Anyways, so how far out do you think are we from maybe not calling it burning season anymore, but maybe we call it I don't know, is there another name for it? Maybe we call it smoky season.
Firefighting season. I don't know. Yeah, good question. To rebrand it, to sort of like name it. That's an interesting idea, actually.
Yeah, and also to just, because obviously during this time, I believe that it's obviously not only the burning, but also the more dense tourism during a few big events, right? So it is definitely Songkran, it is Chinese New Year, it is New Year's, and it all comes together in like bunches pieces, and the pollution obviously also kind of ranks up a little bit. So what I mean was like definitely rebrand it, but in the face of like decreasing burning for those unnecessary reasons so much that maybe we don't have to call it burning season anymore. So how far out do you think is that?
Wow, I can't answer the one thing that like does come to my mind is, you've seen how COVID and this sort of crisis is like shaking the world, and yet all of the sort of researchers and statisticians of health around the world say that air pollution is killing far more people than COVID will. And it's one of those problems that's been with us for so long that it just doesn't create the same kind of urgency because people have gotten used to it.
Yeah. I think the outrage is missing about it.
Although this year I feel that there's been a change. I really feel that there's been a change. I've never seen so much organized activism, and I really feel that people enough people starting to be enough people are saying, well, we've had enough, and so many more people are getting involved in trying to find a solution. So it's hard to say that, because at the same time as I've never seen such a strong response, yet we've just come through one of the worst ever burning seasons. So it doesn't, like, if you were to just judge by the amount of smoke in the air, you'd say, well, we're not getting anywhere. But I have to believe that we will get somewhere, because, as I've said, I see so many groups and so many people coming together to try and tackle it. So
right.
My view is that even though we've just gone through one of the worst burning seasons, that we'll be able to make progress.
Yeah. And I think, isn't it that like after the hurricane comes the rainbow? So it has to get like
right.
Yeah. It needs to hit the fan real hard first before it can get any better and cleaned up. So
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. I hope so.
And I think honestly, and that's the dangerous thing, right? If it's just lingering around, a lot of people, as you said, get used to it. And may not even feel the impact anymore, which is why when it gets extreme, so extreme that actually almost everyone says like, well, nah, I'm not doing that anymore, that's crazy. And people actually dying, and especially people who cannot save themselves from that because they have no ability to close houses or to buy air purifiers or whatever, and they literally die from not being able to take care of themselves. I think that is a point where it flips over to being complicit. Is it complicit? Like when you just take things and you just don't say anything and you just deal with it as being
right. Yeah, in a way, yeah, right.
Yeah,
like
and then it's
apathetic and silent.
Right.
Right.
And then you just be pushed over the edge and you'll be like, nah, that's it, I'm not dealing with it. So I hope that was us over the edge this year, and that it's gonna move like a snowball into an avalanche of action. That would be good.
I hope so. I mean, there's also the fact that it's going to get more difficult because all of the climate change predictions are that this part of the world will get hotter and drier. So, on the one hand, even if we do act, the danger of forest fires will increase because when it gets we've seen what happens in Australia when it gets hotter and drier, the same amount of fires can have a much worse result. So, there's a lot to work against. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, looking at the campaign we introduced last week for our friends from the IDP camps and from Shan State, who unfortunately right now need a lot of support in regards to food supplies. How are we standing there? Did we launch the campaign? Did we have the song?
The campaign's been sort of launched in stages. The song hasn't come out yet. I think the song's going to come out this weekend. I've actually heard a pre-mastered version of the song, and it sounded very cool. And I actually got to play a little bit of saxophone on there. I think we mentioned
I'm
that.
so excited.
I'm looking forward to hearing that put out there. The song hasn't come out yet, but as we said, the campaign will build towards the end of the month. But the campaign has already, in just 1 week, raised, at last count, over 324,000 baht, and also in addition to 16 tons of rice. So an organization in Isan donated 15 tons of rice, and then the Pagayor Karen donated a ton of rice, and other people have donated rice. And so actually a good chunk of the target has already been raised.
That is amazing. So that means we have, I just calculated that, right? So I remember one 45 kilogram bag of rice was 627 baht, more or less?
675, I think, yeah.
Oh. Yeah. So that means we got about 483 bags of rice on top of the 16 tons.
That's right, yeah.
What? That's amazing.
So, yeah, that's right. There's some sort of like not disagreement, but it depends on what price the rice can be bought for. But basically between 675 and 800 baht, not over 800 baht a bag for certain. But yeah.
Okay.
So already over, so what is it, 16 tons, that's 16 tons is 355. So basically it's getting up there, getting up towards 1,000 bags of rice.
And is 1,000 what we wanted?
Well, I think it's, so the overall target for the Shan State, this SSRC Shan refugees, the overall target that they need for 6 months for their 6,101 people is actually a lot more. It's over 10,000 bags of rice. but that's for 6 months. So I think we've split off a smaller target. As far as I could see from the campaign that went out, mainly through Paul from Northgate, we kind of set a preliminary target of 1,000 bags.
And that's gonna last them for
that. Well, they already had, I think, 800. So that would at least cover them for a month. They would have enough for a month. But basically, so yeah, I actually would need to check on that, because I saw a little bit of conflicting message on whether we're in this one campaign trying to achieve the 13,000 bags or 10,000 bags or 1,000.
Right.
I wouldn't be the person to ask about that.
Yeah.
All I know is an amazing amount has already been donated, and it's not finished yet because, as I said, the Triple H song still hasn't come out.
Yes. And we also have not yet organized our concert.
That's right. That would happen after the song, somewhere towards the end of the month, I think. Yeah.
Yes, I'm so excited for that one. So let's talk a little bit about what's still planned. So talk a little bit about the song. What's the song called, and what can we expect to hear on the weekend?
I think the song is going to be called Rise for Life. That's the name of the campaign. So I think the song is called Rise for Life. That's definitely the refrain or the chorus in the song anyway. I don't know if there's going to be a video. That would be more work. I just know that the song is getting mastered right now and should be out this weekend. So we'll get the song out there and try and push that, and hopefully that will help raise more rice and money. Tomorrow I'm going to go and there's some rice being unloaded. So rice is being sort of like delivered in, and there's going to be some rice sacks to move tomorrow morning. So I'm going to go and get involved in that. Quite early for me, but I'll do my best.
I've seen it. But do you need help with that? Oh no, we have to show after you unload the rice.
What, sorry?
No, I'm just thinking the show is after you unload the rice. So I was like, maybe we can ask people to help, but then I'm in the time.
No, they won't. Yeah, they won't see. They won't see it, right? Yeah, we're speaking on Saturday night. The people are listening on Sunday night. Yeah.
No, we are on Thursday now, and they are listening on Friday.
Ah, I'm out. I'm out of it. I'm thinking I'm on the wrong show. I'm on the wrong show. This is the Friday show. It has to be the Friday show because I'm with Mon. Of course, it's the Friday show, and we just played Beabadoobee.
We did.
So. Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that you're out of it because I'm totally out of it. So I'm like,
it's because I'm getting grilled with all these. It's because I'm getting grilled with all these questions. My mind's overextended somehow.
I love it.
Anyway, you who can keep track of days during COVID anyway? I don't know.
That don't ask me. I don't know. I have everything in my calendar so that if I have to go somewhere, be somewhere, do something, whatever, it pops up and be like, and I'm always surprised. I'm like, really? Is that today? Every single time.
Yeah. I've got some of those. Yeah.
It's hilarious. All right. So, what are we gonna do on the live event, the live virtual event with Rise for Life?
What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Well, there's going to be sort of talks. So there'll be talks from SSRC Shan refugee coordinators. There are going to be some dances. So Shan dances, some sort of cultural sort of activities, including dances from the Shan people. I think there'll be a live performance of the song Rise for Life, I think. There are going to be other musicians joining. This kind of thing. It's not 100% set in stone yet, but music, dance, explanations about the Shan history and the history of why there are refugees in the 6 camps and this kind of thing.
I love it. I can't wait. This is gonna be amazing. All right. So then let's hop to the next topic.
Okay, what's next?
You don't know, but I do. So let's see a little bit. You probably have been out a little bit too, and I have been out a little bit. Let's share a little bit how Chiang Mai overall looks like right now with the reopening. We're in phase number 3. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So how's it going?
It's definitely busy out there again. You know, a lot of Chiang Mai is busy again. Obviously, the tourist sector is not busy, but certain, and I think that malls are open, but some malls are well, for example, I think they're allowed to open, but I noticed that One Niman hadn't opened. Or some of the shops around One Niman have opened, but the central courtyard is still locked off. It's still a lot quieter. You know, obviously there's still the curfew from 11 until 3 now. Am I getting that right? It's 11 now. It's at the moment it's 11 until 3 a.m.
Yeah.
So there's still a curfew. So that means that bars are still closed. I definitely see the city sort of like gradually like getting back to life. A lot of activity out there in the daytime looks fairly normal. Obviously, whenever I go anywhere slightly bigger, there you have to get your temperature scanned as you go in. So all the sort of the controls are still in place.
Yeah.
People are still staffing. Yeah.
Traffic is definitely back up.
Traffic is definitely back up.
Yeah. So, do you know what we can expect for the phase 3 and phase 4 reopening? I can still read a few letters in Thai, although I haven't been able to go to school, and my Thai teacher will probably cry when she sees how much I remember. But
I don't know. I mean, I was just looking on the news site and National Bureau of News site, and I didn't see anything about further easing. I didn't, but perhaps I just didn't look deep enough in the history of it because I don't know when reports are put out. I think I'm not the right person to ask, I'm afraid, about this. All I know is that obviously the plan is for other restrictions to be lifted by July the 1st. So by the July the 1st, I think everything can open back up, including international flights. Although obviously the restrictions on entry requirements, quarantine requirements are all going to be in place for quite a long time, as far as I know.
Right. And then we also must actually look at what airlines are allowed to fly here, because I know, for example, that the airline that I was booking with to UK and Germany in April, that obviously didn't work. That was Etihad, and I know Etihad has restrictions to actually where they're allowed to fly from the United Emirates.
Right.
So they can only open specific routes, actually.
Yeah. You know what? I can't. Last week on Sunday with DJ Nam, we covered some of this. He's really good at digging into this information. He's always much more up to speed on it than I am. I think I'll have to pass.
We'll pass it back to Buddha from last week. Awesome. Yeah. So, all right then. So let's chat a little bit about, do you want to go into what's going on internationally or not? I should ask before I ask.
We can talk about it a little bit if you like, if you have some questions. I mean, yeah, on top of the sort of, I mean, I know what you're referring to. On top of the COVID crisis, America's having a crisis of
civil
unrest. Civil unrest, but a crisis around race brought on by the killing of George Floyd, and so it's right. I just don't know what to. I don't know what to say about it exactly. Although I've seen so many different aspects of it. I know you've been commentating on it, trying to sort of influence, especially white people like us, to think about their privilege and this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had. It's interesting that like you sometimes, if you don't identify, if the circumstances of your life has caused you to not have to identify with anything, like for example, I think probably many white people live their lives without ever having to or being forced to identify as white, because it's almost like that's just the base reality for them. And one way like that I could think about this, that I was thinking about this was, you know, in England, in the UK, if you have a certain accent that used to be called Queen's English, but basically it's just some kind of professional accent. It used to be called Queen's English, although it's changed over the years. Then you were considered to have no accent, so to speak. But in actual fact, of course, it's an accent. It's just that because that was the sort of what educated professional people spoke like, everything else seems like a deviation from that in retrospect. And for many, many years in the UK, if you wanted to get ahead in many professions, you had to give up a regional accent and learn to speak with, this middle of the road English accent. So
Same in
I
Germany,
don't know if it's a
actually.
good, yeah, I don't know what kind of a comparison that really is, but obviously so imagine that you're in America or other countries as well. If you're black, whether or not you want to think of yourselves as black, uh, you often, I would imagine you often have little choice, because that locus from where power is projected, even if people who don't identify themselves with it, even if many white-skinned people like us don't identify themselves with it, it's still there, and there's a history behind it, and a history of sort of inequality and yeah, systemic inequality in power structures, etc.
I think it's really interesting what you say if we go from the identification point of things, because there's this thing like identity politics, right? A lot of people are just it's literally a natural bias that born in this society, basically we want to put everything into labels, categories, boxes, like colors, right? I have a white shirt, you have a purple one, and like it's just everything, right? We label feelings and emotions as good and bad, as if they were good or bad. They're just are, right? But we want to label them so we can handle it better, right? Because we want to stick a label to everything. We want to stick just, it's just with cars, they all have a label. So I think this identity politics is really, really big when it comes to when it comes to this race issue, because skin color is literally the only thing that you just can't hide. So this accent thing, you can learn a different accent if you really try, right? Hair color, I can change my hair color. Eye color, I can wear, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How's it called?
I colored contact lenses or something like
This
that.
one's, yeah. I'm like, I don't know what it is. So, but you can basically change everything but skin color, unless you're a Michael Jackson. But you just can't. Like, I mean, maybe you can, but no one does the whole process like Michael Jackson. Like, no one goes through this. This is,
but yeah, well, that's true. That's true. But the only reason that skin color means anything is because of his history.
Well, yes, and because of identity politics. Like, I mean, if we go before the history that you mean, we go before all of that, all the people that were Homo sapiens in the very beginning were black. You and me, we just bleached out. There wasn't enough you know, there wasn't enough sun over there in the UK and in Germany. Like,
Right.
but if you look really far back in the very beginnings of Homo sapiens, they were all black. So
Right.
no, actually, skin color wasn't a thing until it became one by identity politics, because someone was like, well, we need a few people there inferior to us. Any, mini, miny, moo, skin color is a great thing to do. Same like Hitler did with eye color in the concentration camps. It's really disgusting, but that's what he did. Blue eyes, brown eyes. Oh, so the blue-eyed ones must be German, the brown-eyed ones must be Jews. So same thing, you know, because you just, by this time they didn't have this contact lens thing. So you can't just
Didn't Hitler himself have brown eyes though?
Well, people also don't know that his grandparents were Jewish, but don't tell anyone. So
yeah.
So, but here's the thing, right? What I just wanted to say was this identity politics, right? You're absolutely right that there are people that probably don't have to identify themselves with the skin color because they're not identified from someone else. And what I mean is, like, everything is perception, right? I don't know if we spoke about this before, but everything's perception. But if you're in the same bubble, let's just say you live in Germany, right, in a little village, and the bubble is all white, then you don't have to think about it because your identity is not questioned, right? But if you live in a country like America, everything is like possible, right? Every color is there, every skin color from no color, like totally bleached out. I'm sorry if I say this, but I think it's totally white until totally black and everything in between. Then people are going to look at each other and be like, you are so dark. No, you are so white. And then they look at someone Asian, they're like, I don't know what your color is, you know? So then that's where identity politics start. And I think that's definitely a big issue. But
I just remember that line from the Bob Marley song "War." You know, it basically the refrain in the song is like, "War until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes. There's a war." So he's basically saying that it should not be of any significance. We do have different colored skin, but it should not be of any significance to how we're treated in life. It tells us a story of you know, perhaps where our ancestors have come from, or perhaps, but it shouldn't be of any significance to how we're treated. And that's when skin color is of no significance to how we're treated in the world, then people can still retain whatever cultural or whatever identity they like, but they feel comfortable with, they're happy with, but it won't be a source of prejudice.
Right.
And shouldn't be. Yeah.
And I think, you know, the problem with and I think you've seen, like, as you mentioned in my posts, like, there are a lot of people who try to bypass those differences, because it's not that there shouldn't be any different colors, because there always will. And how boring would it be if there's just one color? That's just like, I'm gonna fall asleep right away, right? I don't want a world with just like one color. Like,
well, we have in some countries, some places, everybody's born with pretty much the same hair color, and we get around the problem by using hair dye, right? And to not all have to have the same color.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I suppose it's like right.
It's not about not being different, but it's about not being treated different, because again, like, no one is superior, no one is inferior. We're supposed to be all equal. But again, so there are some people who are using this, like, I don't see color, or all lives matter. And the thing that's wrong about this, for example, is that, well, if you do not see color, then first of all, you're probably colorblind. And if you're not colorblind, you're dismissing the issue. And if you're dismissing the issue, you're bypassing with your huge privilege and entitlement the entire big picture. You're saying, I can't see it, la 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 la. No, there is no problem over here. And that just makes you a bigger part of the problem too. So you're just shuffled yourself into this. And the same with all lives matter. Yes, all lives matter. But if truly all lives matter, then there would be no way we would have to say Black Lives Matter, because then everyone knew, sure, all lives matter. So we didn't have to draw big posters and go protest and whatever for this one specific group of people, because then everyone knew, yeah, for sure, like, yeah, but if the police goes and murders another Black man, we do have to say Black Lives Matter, because guess what? Apparently you all lives matter people didn't remember that Black Lives Matter too.
Yeah, we could talk about this for years and years, and I suppose it would be better if we had some more color in the room. No, some you know, I don't know. Yeah, I just don't want to try and come across as knowing too much about it. One thing that I've seen.
Point. I think the point.
No, well, yeah, one thing that I've seen that I liked was, you know, because there's never been anything like a Truth and Reconciliation Commission in America, which many people, you know, many activists have called for, as there was in South Africa, say. What I've seen from many of these protests is people sort of have started to do something like that. You know, you've seen there's groups of videos of sort of groups of white people, mainly white people, sort of apologizing on behalf of their predecessors. So we know some people find that strange, because they say, well, we didn't do anything. We weren't literally ourselves involved in slavery and Jim Crow laws and this and that. But they're missing the point. If there hasn't been a Truth and Reconciliation, if no apology of reparations or acknowledgement has ever been given of the crimes, disenfranchisement, abuses of the past, then that leaves an open wound. And we can see that there's an open wound. So I actually see some sign that people are sort of taking that into their own hands and sort of enacting a Truth and Reconciliation of their own without it having been officially created by a government or organization. So that's what some of the actions that I can see sort of look like to me. The beginnings of that.
I think it's very important to say, though, that first of all, you and me obviously are no experts, but it's still important to share thoughts on that. That's my opinion. Well, and everyone has one anyways. But then it's also important to say, in my opinion, that it's not about, and I've heard that over and over again from my Black friends that I talk to, it's not about that white people should feel guilty or ashamed of the past. That's not whatsoever what anyone wants. But as you just said, acknowledgement is the number one thing. It's not about that anyone is guilty. I'm not guilty of anything. I literally didn't, like, again, like we talked about it from the traveling thing, the amount of times that I was called names just for being German doesn't still make me feel guilty for what Hitler has done. Like, that's not my fault. But it's my responsibility today to make sure that in the future that doesn't happen, and that the system that was built to basically hold this and make it possible, that we dismantle the system. And that's our responsible as white people to do, though, you know? And so nothing to do with feeling guilty or ashamed. I think it's
awareness, isn't it? Like, I mean, like, for example, me as a British person, born British, I have to be aware in the world of Britain's colonial past. I mean,
yeah, but
otherwise,
it's also not your fault, so you don't have to feel guilty for it.
right. But I have to be aware of it and make sure that I don't do anything that comes across as, what's the word? I mean,
Colonizing?
yeah, that's sort of that's associated with, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, that's arrogant or sort of entitled. Let's just say entitled.
Right.
You know, because
Right.
yeah, in certain situations, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that you acknowledge that certain things in history have become the way they are because of this colonization, for example, right? That certain countries are behind, didn't have certain opportunities, you know, these kind of things because of colonization. I mean, you know, there are still people who are saying the Holocaust didn't happen, and I'm wondering.
Right. Yeah, that's connected with, I mean, just the fact we've talked about it before. You know, you want to find some piece of evidence to back up what you'd like to think. These days, you can find it on the internet. You can find what you want. You want to believe this? Okay, go ahead. Google will give you something, or YouTube will give you something.
Right, but they have to walk on a lot of graves to not. I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you know, like it's just this acknowledgement as well. That's for sure. All right. Well, for anyone who who feels like maybe they want to explore more, do you think we can share some resources? I have a list of them.
Well, I definitely have, with reference to what we were talking about earlier, I definitely have a couple of links related to the Chiang Mai Breath Council and the live meeting that's coming up that will be also including me and Ganji from last week. That's this Saturday again, so I can share the link to that. And then I can share a link again to the latest updates on the Rice for Life campaign and how that's going. And you have some other links related to what we were just talking about.
I share one. Yes.
Protests.
Yes. No, it's not about the protests. It's more about if you feel like you would like to educate yourself more on these type of topics and to find all the information. It's one link with everything included. Very easy.
All right. Okay, cool. Well, I think we've probably done enough then, have we?
Yep. I think we're good to go for this show.
Maybe next time. Well, next time we don't have a guest. Maybe I can interview you. That would be nice.
So next week we actually have a guest, but then in 2 weeks you can do that. Are you going to interview me about pineapples, or?
I'll let you know. Yellow will definitely be involved.
Yeah. Did you know there are 37 different kinds of pineapples?
No.
Now you know.
I did not. I know that I've tried at least 5 or 6 kinds.
Yeah.
At least. But 37, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Not all in Thailand, but all around the world. 37 different kinds.
These past couple of weeks, I have been mainly eating mangoes. Lots of different kinds of mangoes. Wow.
They're so good.
Yeah, I just bought a whole load more. They're chilling out in the refrigerator right now.
Same. Yeah. All right. Should we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoy the music. The music, if you're just watching the video, is down there in the playlist. If you're listening on the radio, you've heard the music. We have some links down there in the video playlist or in our Facebook post as well. And this has been Relax Time Radio 93.25 FM broadcasting here on Radio Thailand, Chiang Mai. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
See you next time.
See you next time.